So, uh, when you're when you're going into being a CEO, there's different stages. When you're in a startup, the CEO doesn't mean that you're like a real CEO for a business, right? You're basically looking to raise money, get the
Yep.
message out there,
Yep.
and try to hold things together without letting the cats and dogs fight too much,
Yeah. Yeah. It's very true.
right? And it needs kind of like a short term vision with a lot of energy.
Yes.
A- As you are a more mature company that's established, that's been going on for a couple of years and is profitable and is running, the CEO is different, right? He's like cook, right? The uh he's got to have enough vision to raise money, but right now the company's set up enough where he doesn't have to do anything creative to get there, right?
Yeah.
Generally, unless they're evolving. But at this point, if you're trying to learn all these skills, I mean, this is a mature position, right? This is like people who've been doing business and probably that business for 10, 20 years, right? When you're stepping into a mature CEO position.
Hmm.
And if you haven't had a real career before, it's hard to do. It's really hard to do because you don't know how to deal with employees. You don't know how to give that consistency that people expect in these
Yeah.
mature companies, right? It's a
Yeah.
very different environment than any startup you did that's less than 2 or 3 years old.
It's very true.
So very different mindsets, and you can't bring that together, right? You can't come into a mature business, say we're going to treat this like a startup and go stay, right?
Yep.
There's ways to bring in this energy and this creativity, which is kind of like it's talked about here, right? There's ways you try business models, you verify it, you work through it, and you grow into it. But to try to do that without having work experience before, like real work experience, and seeing some pros do it and
Hmm.
start kind of experiencing all the other departments, then you're in trouble because a lot of people expect a lot from the CEO in a mature company.
Well, and let me just kind of give you a really good example. You end up in if you have not been in a big company or a mature company, as to use your word, one of the biggest things that you end up missing out on, or you end up screwing up, is the HR stuff,
Mm.
because there's a lot of HR pitfalls that you just aren't aware of because you've never been in one of those companies where you have to be aware of HR things. So
Yep.
you end up going and you say something, and next thing you know, your company's getting sued because you said
Hmm.
something, because
Hmm.
you're, yeah,
Well,
you
because you
you just
insulted a lot of people, or you did a lot of
you
damage, or you broke the
yep.
law, right?
Yeah.
You're no longer with a close group of people that have that same expectation that you grew the company with. You're now doing
Yep.
some very different
Yes.
expectations.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
it's hard to
absolutely.
do. It's hard to do. When I was advising students on where how to build a career, a lot of them are like,
Hmm.
"I want to be an entrepreneur like you, Phil." I'm like, no, you don't. Right? Like
Yeah.
I know some people out there do, right? But I know all you guys, and none of you guys have the initiative, drive, and money to do it right.
Hmm.
And they're
Hmm.
like, "Wow, Phil, that's mean." I'm like, "Oh yeah." Like, okay, if you want to go into a real company, you're going to have to
Yeah.
hire people, you're going to have to manage them, you're going to have to make sure salaries are taken care of, and you're doing marketing and you understand accounting and business practices, you're dealing with
Yeah.
customers, you're building your product, all this stuff at the same time. Right?
Yep.
That's if you're going to be an entrepreneur yourself.
Yep.
Some people have it, some people don't, right? But no
Yep.
matter what, it takes a lot of money to get there, right?
Yep.
You can't just jump into it. And if
Yep.
you try to, you're going to end up paying, and you can do this, right? And I said, this is how you get over this. You basically hire consultants that teach you all
That's
these skills,
yep.
right?
Yep.
That
Yep.
sit
Yep. Yep.
there,
Yep.
do
Yep.
it for you. You learn from them on the job, right?
Yep.
Versus you being an employee, you going through it for like 2 or 3 years,
Yep.
seeing what it is in the environment, process it yourself, and then
Yep.
create your own style, and then hire all those professionals so that you know what they're talking about and why they're doing it. It's a very different experience.
It is. There are some really, so let's like, there's some really good companies out there that'll handle a lot of the stuff that you were talking about for you, or and
Yep.
are willing to work with you on all of those
Hmm.
things. Like,
Hmm.
do not be afraid to do that, and at all. I
Yeah.
think it's a
If you really
huge
want to
thing.
do that entrepreneurial spirit, right, journey, go for it. It's fun.
Uh huh.
It can
Uh
also
huh.
be painful, and you
Yeah.
can set yourself back years and years and years by
Yeah.
making bad choices. But that's
Right.
okay. That's part
Exactly.
of learning.
Yeah. No. Absolutely true.
I think that's kind of what I wanted to say because it's kind of rough to hear it directly without a lot of
I agree, and
context.
I think a lot of people just this is a really nice one. I think a lot of it too is people just don't like. Again, it's the you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
Um, I, there's just so many things, and again, like again,
And the
I'm
more you
still
know, the more you realize you don't know shit.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm still a big advocate for even if you aren't what do you call it? Even if you aren't a I don't know. Even if you're kind of like a startup, you're doing a startup and everything. Like I'm still a big advocate that like when you get out of school, and whether that's like grade school or college or graduate school or whatever, I'm still a
Hmm.
big advocate of go work at a company. Like just go
Hmm.
work at a company for a little bit. Give it
Uh-huh.
2 years maybe.
Yeah.
Just go and give it a little bit of time, and a lot of it again is there's some really good experience that you're going to gain from that. However, I'm also like, especially if you have an idea for a business that you want to build, my big thing is go and earn your money from a company and use that to fund your startup and
Yep.
do your startup in the off hours. Like that's a big thing, and I think that's super important because you're going to learn a ton of skills while you're doing your day job, so to speak.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
you're also going to learn a ton of skills while doing your excuse me what do you call it?
Day job.
No,
Your
the other
entrepreneurial
job.
journey.
Yeah, your side gig. That's what's going
Side
to
gig.
happen. Yeah, side gig.
Yeah, I like that.
So
The if I could add one more step to that, I'd say
no.
while you're in high school, middle school, college, um, make some projects, right?
Yeah,
Not many, just one or two interesting projects with a particular niche of your interest,
I
and
agree
build
with
those
that.
projects up so that as you're going out there, you're building this project, which may become a company or maybe just use it to learn with, right? And it's gonna you're gonna learn a lot of these skills that you get from work and from your gig, and it'll tie together, right? That little project becomes your sandbox experimentation stage.
That's one of the things that like one of my neighbors is doing with his kid. His kid's like 9 years old. I think it's great, and I think he's doing a good. I think in general he's doing a really good job of it. Because I his kid's pretty good, a
Bravo,
pretty
bro.
good, well rounded kid overall so far. I often wonder like I don't whatever. Anyway, I'm not gonna whatever. I'm not gonna. I have no idea what he's doing to teach his kid. But one of the things that I know that he's doing and I love, he's uh, having his kid start businesses.
Yep.
And because one of the things he's like saying is, I want people, or I want him to grow up understanding how hard it is to actually earn money and how hard it
Hmm.
is to actually generate an income and do all of these things. And I'm like, that's beautiful, dude. And you're starting him at a young age. It's like, that's beautiful. Please, like, keep doing that. And I'm doing everything I can to help him out by throwing business his way, the
Nice.
kid's way, because
Nice.
I
Good
think
for
it's
you.
awesome. Yeah. And again, it's like doing it at such a young age is huge. And even
Hmm.
if you aren't that young, just like if you're in your 30s, just try something, do something on the side. So, all right.
Yeah.
And we can help you with that by giving you values. Yeah.
Value proposition.
Let's transition
Yeah.
to the public side.
Going to the public side.
Public. Okay, so you wanted to talk about testing. Test, test,
Yeah.
test, test.
So today I'm going to talk about testing all by myself with my dear friend Alan Hill,
All
who's going to do all the talking.
by myself.
And the tomorrow, next whatever tomorrow is, we're going to talk about
Whenever
evolve,
you
which
listen to
is
it.
pulling it together all together, and that's going to be exciting. So I can't wait to talk about this because a lot of discussion we were having behind the scenes was how do you teach business concepts to people? How do you become that entrepreneur, right? And some of this turns out to be how do you do this safely and as cheaply as possible? And it all comes down to how you testing, right? So the reason we test is early is to find out if we're on track as inexpensive as possible to see if we should get out of it and save years or decades of our life and our house and marriage. So
Yeah.
this chapter, guys, fathers, it's all out here for saving your kids, future generations wealth, and not just create it, but to save it and to save your marriage.
Yeah.
How's that? Chapter 3, section
Well,
3.
I'm curious about the save your marriage part.
So I think the example is in the evolve section, but maybe it's towards the end of the testing section, right? And they
Okay.
go through a case study.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's in this chapter, right? So they go through a case study and they say they have this idea for baby tracker, right? To check the pulse and to make sure, it's still breathing and not, doing well, right?
Yeah.
So they start off by going talking to people at a hospital, right? So the nurses are like, yeah, this would be awesome. Without wires, the kid's gonna be more comfortable and nobody's gonna be tripping and hitting things, right? And our environment's gonna be cleaner and maybe the parents will love it too, right? But it sounds great to us. And then they asked the administrators who'd be purchasing it, and they're like, okay, yeah, we would love it if it added zero expense.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So that idea got shot down. All they had to do was a couple surveys that they just went there and did. It cost them zero money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing, right? Because if they had started that process, it would have been a lot of money and a lot of time spent, and they would have then gone to realize that nobody's going to buy it because hospital administrators don't care because wires worked for 100 years.
Right.
So you don't break something that's working. So they realized that business model didn't make sense. They went to their second business model and they asked a bunch of parents. And because parents are scared of sudden infant syndrome, sudden
Yeah.
death, SIDS, um, that parents love the idea. Like 90% of the parents thought it was great. They got a lot of good feedback. They were able to make some minor changes uh, to their case study. They even made a website and got a bunch of pre-orders and saw that people are sharing it and it was just going great. So they did some split testing, right? All this all together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they paid, I think it was like $1,000, $1,200, one
That's not
thousand one
bad.
hundred and $1,150, right? If you're following along, it's page 250. But here's what they learned. Um, the uh, the FDA requires a certain process, and that process is going to be $120,000 to $200,000 per year to be able to make this claim for the features that they mentioned. And I guess the big issue is the alarm, and selling is something that can help monitor for SIDS.
Yeah.
So they realized that they couldn't afford that, right? Which is cool because, a
FDA
little bit of
screws up
information
everything.
saved them a bunch of time, right? But FDA screwed up everything. So they went through it again. And then they found out that 20% of parents would be happy with just monitoring the wireless thing while they're sleeping and, the peace of mind and convenience that it came up with the product. And it just, it felt great, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they did all this research for under $2,000, where if they had started in the first direction, they would have probably spent $100,000 preparing this big order, right? Because you have to manufacture it, deliver it. Then
Yeah.
when they get the products and they start selling it to hospitals and realize nobody's going to buy it, they're going to have to go to best case. They have to change the app if there's an app, or if it's probably in a hospital, it's going to be hardware. It's not going to be on the phone, right? So you're going
Yep.
to have to you automatically lose the hardware component to it. You automatically lose or whatever that bridge it is that's connecting the wireless devices and all that marketing money and the big losses in the marketing money, right? So even with hospitals, maybe you wouldn't spend so much on marketing, but you're still going to spend 10, 20,000 on marketing because you have to make materials, you have to contact them, you have to warm it up, the relationship and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, and then had they not found out that they had to do an FDA certification, then they would have had this. But then, at least with the good thing is they could have then gone back and modified the device to, not have the alarm notice and maybe just redo some branding. But because of the research in the 4 weeks they spent on it, looking into it, answering all the questions they had, they were able to create a product that was a healthy launch.
Yes.
And just basically with a little bit of experimentation and playing with the business models.
Hmm. Hmm.
The So one of the lessons in there is that you can have a great value proposition. You can have a lot of people that'll buy it and a successful launch, like with the second case where they had to do the FDA thing. But then
Yep.
because of all the business issues related to it, or the business model issues, we can say, which
Hmm.
is key partnerships, which, you know, if your key partner is the FDA and you have to pay them $200,000 a year,
Yeah.
you have to be prepared for that, right? So that
Yeah.
meant that
Unfortunately.
destroyed that business model. And that's the cool thing about the business model. You look at it, you make sure it's going to be profitable, even if it looks like it's a great idea, right? Because they could have just gone in and said, okay, cool, we got all this product, and they got investors going, and then they say, okay, cool, now we're launching, right? And then they would have to go back to their investors who put in $100,000 or $200,000 to get to there. Say, oh, by the way, we need another one or 200,000, $1.5 to $200,000 a year to deal with the FDA. And now that we already started, we have to put a hold on things because
Hmm.
FDA realized they don't like us as much as we thought they did, and so on and so on.
Hmm.
Which also means, yeah, you guys are going to have to wait a little longer to get any kind of money back if we can raise enough money. I've seen companies not to be able to raise that extra little kick money, 5, 10, 20,000, and gone out of business after spending 60, $100,000.
Holy
So
cow. That
yeah,
sucks.
yeah, I've seen it. Yep. Yep, and a
That's
lot
pretty
of it
bad.
comes from not listening to the people around you, right? Not listening to your clients,
Uh huh.
saying, "Hey, this is what I really want."
Uh
Um,
huh.
and some of that goes to an ego play where I'm like, "I know you're not asking for this, but I'm going to give
Uh
this to you because it's my name attached to it, and it has to
huh.
be right." This is a
Yeah.
personal thing, right? That has nothing to do with business. That's you being a rock star, right? That's great if you can afford it. If
Yeah.
you're the one buying all your stuff, right? But it hurts. It can hurt the bank. The other thing is creating features and benefits that people don't care about, that don't solve the ones that really drive value and gains and reduce pains for the clients.
Hmm.
And then the third big pitfall I see is changing too many things before they actually get
Yep.
into customers' hands, and that's
Well,
the
that,
that's the biggest pitfall.
yeah. You don't know what you're doing, and you really don't know who your customer is until you actually get the product out there. You can,
Hmm.
like, this is one of the hard things about marketing and everything, because we've been really, like, I have to do this a lot. You can sit there and you can define who you think your customer is and who you want your customer to be, but the problem is
Yep.
you're not going to actually be able to know if that person, it really is your customer, until
Uh-huh.
you go out there and you say, and you start trying to market that person, or you start trying to find that person to market to them. Because oftentimes
Mhm.
you may sit there and you may think, oh, this is who my customer is, this is my product, and then you start marketing your product, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, my product actually isn't for this customer that I thought it was. It's for this whole set of customers. So then you have
Uh-huh.
to reevaluate and go back to it.